What is going on, everybody? It is episode 247 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name's Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Crisis actors. It's Mary. We are back from the weekend with a returning favorite main guest host. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, sheeple. Dane Font here. Marketing man extraordinaire and the patron saint of White Boy Summer.
Just right off the bat, insulting the audience? What's going on, Dane?
I'm just feeling that way today.
Wow.
I have to admit, I find the term sheeple to be particularly kind of dorky and annoying.
I say it ironically.
It's very when I see like Dane was saying it jokingly, but when people say that, like,
did I?
Did you?
I just think they could be better.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I'm on everybody else's side. I think that term is particularly dorky when people use it, especially when they're arguing on the internet and somebody calls somebody else a sheeple. I'm just like, oh man, like it doesn't work for me. So,
contrary to you guys, I'm often in the chat. I speak with the people. I am one of the people. And I know their potential.
That gives you the right then.
Yes.
Because you're one of them.
Correct. And I know their potential, and I just think they could do better.
Okay.
Guys, I want to double check with everyone. Is the stream looking okay there?
What's there a problem in the chat?
I'm just double checking to make sure that we're good here. I'm just getting started. I want to make sure things are going well as we get started today. So I'm asking the not sheeple. Yeah, they're not sheeple. So I think we're good. I just want to double check as we go through things today. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We are going to talk about Balenciaga and this particularly disgusting ad campaign that they're running involving kids, toys, and BDSM masks, and oh my god, it's quite awful. We're going to talk about the kind of earth-shattering news that Bob Chapek is out at Disney, and Bob Iger is just like, here, I'll come back. Whether you think that is a good thing or not, that is up to many different people with many different opinions. I have my own thoughts on it. So we're going to talk about that. We are going to discuss the opening ceremonies to the World Cup, which I woke up Sunday morning and I watched it, and I found it, maybe it was the mood I was in when I watched it, but I found it particularly annoying. So we'll get into that. We are also going to talk about the star of That's So Raven, who had some particularly refreshing news when it came to her identity, her character, and how that should be written on TV. And I have some other thoughts regarding her and some of the other characters on the show I hadn't watched, but the way she talks about it kind of reminded me of some long forgotten principles in Hollywood. We're also going to go into some of the celebrity cope since Donald Trump both announced his return to Twitter, since he got his return to Twitter from Elon Musk, though he's not yet used that as far as I know, and also announced his presidency, his run for the presidency in 2024. It is, I have some existential dread relating to that. So we will get into all of that.
I have some existential dread about just about everything we're about to talk about, but we're going to get through it together, guys.
It is. So if you guys are ready, we will just get right into it. Are you ready,
We're
Mary?
ready.
Dane?
Yes.
All right. So first things first, and yes, this is disturbing. It says, beyond disturbing, Balenciaga ad campaign features children with bondage teddy bears.
Yeah.
You brought this one to my attention.
Yeah, I was doom scrolling through Twitter and saw this horrors beyond what you can imagine. This campaign features several different child models holding items from Balenciaga's Spring 2023 collection, and they unveiled these purses back in October that are basically just teddy bears with botched faces. One of them has a third eye, and they are wearing different bondage gear. So they've got like a padlock around one of their necks. One of them is wearing fishnets. They've got this like bondage gear around their bodies. And now they've decided it was appropriate to have children modeling these purses, which of course inherently has its inherent theme of sexuality. And it's not new to see, leading brands and also media franchises trying to push the artistic boundary.
Oh yeah.
By mixing children with, inherently adult themes. We've seen this with Cuties as a very extreme example, but I think there are smaller iterations of this that are happening right under our noses, and this is one of them that they're trying to get away with. They haven't publicly addressed it. What I do see that they've done is they've deleted all of their Instagram posts. They have mainly hidden this campaign from the main page of their website, but you can still find it. And when you go to their main page and scroll down to this campaign, it's part of their gifts collection for kids. And when you go to it on their website now, they have only shown one picture of a child model with these items. And it's a boy. So there are a few girls in the campaign and a boy that I can tell. And they're receiving a ton of backlash, which I'm glad to see, because I don't want this to I don't want this to just fall on deaf ears. But so far, it doesn't seem like the brand is planning on responding to this situation. They're just hoping that it'll get memory hold. And that's the last thing I want.
And the number one thing that you pointed out to me was the basically there's like an Easter egg in it that very few people noticed.
So the worst part of this is not the BDSM teddy bears, actually. They also included a photo.
Which one was it that had this on it?
What do you mean?
Which photo was it that did all of them? It was the original one with the kid in the teddy bear.
It wasn't in the pictures with the kids.
Okay.
It was in a picture of items on a table on its own.
Yes, okay.
So there is this poorly hidden, obscured part of a Supreme Court document, an opinion against or for the banning of virtual child blank. And this is hidden under some items on a table, but you can still clearly decipher the words and exactly what it's about.
Gang, if I may, I did not acquire the title of marketing man extraordinaire out of nothing. It came with experience. I've worked in family brands, and I've worked in, let's say, sexual risque campaigns as well.
Not the same campaign.
No, not this one.
Not even close.
Not even, I mean, no. And even in the campaigns that had a, let's say, provocative sexual undertone, there was a purpose to them.
Yeah.
For example, in the one that I worked with for a company, shall be renamed, whatever, like nameless.
Name it the company.
The company, right?
That's the CIA. Sorry. The CIA is the company.
We wanted to be extremely provocative and sexual because we were targeting a demographic of 21 to 25-year-olds, and the listen, if I reveal more details, I'll reveal the product. Anyway, the whole point is that it spoke with a purpose. So my issue with this is that I understand the desire to be provocative, but what is the purpose of this level of provocative?
What I wonder here is, like, look, I can imagine that there's a photographer out there who doesn't understand what this is, or
let's actually talk about the photographer, though.
Yes. So my thought was that if you're a photographer and you're particularly you're looking to capture something and you've got a specific idea, it could be bent to the will of a company with much more nefarious purposes, or vice versa. A company could have a general idea and a photographer with more nefarious ideas behind what they want to shoot.
Okay.
Could be used to bend that. And I'm being charitable for the sake of the
issue
argument.
with your charitable interpretation is that there is no excuse or benefit of the doubt interpretation, or even way that he could have been ignorant of that court document being included in this campaign.
Do we know if he shot that one? I know he shot the photos of the kids.
He is the only photographer who is credited on the campaign. So he says this is part of his ongoing project that is called Toy Stories. And here's how he describes it. He says he travels around the world. I take portraits of children with their favorite toys. In 3 years, I've visited over 50 countries where I've recorded the spontaneous joy that unites kids despite their diverse backgrounds. Whether the child owns a veritable fleet of miniature cars or a single stuffed monkey, the pride they have is moving, funny, and thought-provoking. So here's the issue. The Balenciaga ad campaign is not part of Toy Stories.
Yeah.
Because in Toy Stories, he specifically curates these posts of here's this child's real name, their real age, and where they're really from, and here are their real toys that they really own and love. And that's, a cute idea on its own as a concept. But then when you take it over to the Balenciaga campaign, these are child models, ages 3, 4, 5.
Are they even models, or are they just regular children?
They're likely child models who were booked for the gig, and by God knows what kind of parents. But these kids are 3, 4, and 5, around that age. They are not named. Their age is not published, and they are pictured around a bunch of Balenciaga products that are not. They don't belong to the child. And this is a job that the child and their parents really are getting paid to do. It's different than voluntarily agreeing to share this aspect of your real life. So I saw this comment on his Instagram that said, "This isn't part of your Toy Stories collection. Yeah. You sold your concept and did a buyout agreement for a commercial campaign, and this 3-year-old is a paid model being exploited by you. You've done plenty of juxtaposed work with adults, and you should have done this campaign with people 18 plus. It's weird and insincere to even imply that this is part of your Toy Stories project, which highlighted real children. So this corporate campaign is disturbing, all the way down to the dog leashes and bondage teddy bear purses."
Here's an additional theory that I have, right? So this was Balenciaga as well as Adidas?
It's actually not Adidas, but Adidas is in partnership with Balenciaga on a different campaign. I was just mistakenly drawing a connection there.
Okay, so this is Balenciaga that has recently famously had ties with a music person that we all know and love, at least I do, and who has come, into trouble, hot waters as of recent. And his point of view, or the point of view that he can be espousing, can be characterized to be pertaining to, let's say, the right wing. And an issue that typically annoys that particular side of the culture, as we've seen on several social media outlets, has been child abuse. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I feel that this is, it's the company being like, "Oh, guys, remember when we were with that guy? F him. Actually, we're one of you. See, like we don't care about joking about this subject or making light of this subject. Like we're on this side. We're on the correct side where we abuse children on ads."
Yeah, what's insane about this is
the kids don't even look happy in the photos.
That's kind of part of the point, right? It's like, very cynical and for adults.
It feels like you were talking about earlier, like a Wayfair ad.
That's yes. Okay, like it feels. Maybe I am, schizo for thinking this, but when I'm reading these captions, like saying the name and age and location of this child, and them pictured so starkly in their bedrooms, it feels like an ad for a person who is going to be sold off to a highest bidder. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but that's how it feels.
It was this one in particular. It was the first one on his Instagram page that made me like.
Interpretations aside,
this one looks really creepy to me. Like the kid looks genuinely unhappy to be there. Interpretations
aside, what is happening on the surface level is damning enough.
Yeah.
That's it.
And also, if this is my favorite word, an awareness campaign. Awareness. If this is an awareness campaign, the onus is on you to explain yourself. The onus is on you to be like, well, there are sexual things and the child is uncomfortable, but it's actually a representation that we're against it and children are uncomfortable with situations, yada, 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 yada. But it's obviously not that.
We're going to prove that children are uncomfortable being exposed to inherently adult themes exposing them to adult themes. Like, you're not proving any artistic point. You're not pushing the boundaries. You're just being exploitative openly and expecting to get away with it.
Yeah,
and what's crazy about this is that they've just dropped Kanye. pretending to be on a moral high ground.
Yeah.
So has Adidas, by the way. And Balenciaga as a brand has deleted all of their Instagram posts. They have made their dramatic exit from Twitter, likely over Elon Musk's takeover. Yet, Elon Musk, since taking over Twitter and slashing thousands of useless employees, has actually made some changes to prevent child exploitation on the platform. So I saw reports that there has been a major crackdown on child exploitation material on the platform. They have streamlined the process for users to report such material directly from the app rather than having to go about it by like going on the desktop. And I also heard that prominent hashtags that are used to spread that material have been almost completely cleared of abusive materials. So it's just interesting, and I think something that audiences should pay very close attention to, how when a big tech platform begins finally enforcing their rules against the endangerment of children, watch very closely which brands and individuals start making their way towards the exit first. Because you can't deny that that's suspicious at the very least. And the timing is just all too convenient.
And it's the slow normalization of this stuff,
yes.
right? That's what we're into right now, is that they're going to continue to do this, and they're going to continue in their genius about how creepily they incorporate it into everyday stuff, where if a person is not aware of what's going on to the culture, they're not going to catch this stuff. They'll say, oh, I don't get it. I don't see it. But we see it because we have to look at this stuff every day.
Yeah, and you have to take into account how many adults were involved in publishing this campaign. Yeah. Countless people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
and no one was like, hey, maybe we should wait a minute and like reevaluate.
We had a meeting today talking about this. And just a meeting on a small scale for a company is like however many people are involved in getting a message out there, which means endless individuals had to look at this and be like, yeah, that's fine.
This is a top fashion house.
Specialists, managers, chief executive officers, the finance department. Everyone gets to have a say in this. Everyone knew, like, you know, in the ledger, you got to justify your expenses. And the accountant had to be like, okay, so what were these expenses? Oh, they were S&M costumes for teddy bears.
Yeah.
Got it. You know,
check.
Like it's check. Understood. You know,
also,
like,
what is the message behind this? Like, what is it? Nowadays, we're beaten over the head with how clear all their messaging has to be, whether it's about inclusion, whether it's about this or that. It's about climate change. What does this say exactly other than creepy?
Yeah, every time that we are being targeted with like a demoralization campaign, we are browbeaten and our ears are talked off about how we are the villains. And yet when they do something this monstrous and just openly villainous and predatory, there's no explanation given. The photographer has not gone to social media to explain what he meant by this as an artist. Yeah. None of the creative directors, none of the people who are brand ambassadors. People are even, I saw this tweet calling on the Kardashians who are... They wear this brand, and I think they might have actually partnered with them. This tweet said, "There's no excuse for toddlers to be exposed to BDSM. Balenciaga is grooming toddlers with sexual material, and celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Khloe Kardashian wear this brand and have young children. Why are any women, famous or otherwise, supporting the sexualization of toddlers?" Good question. I mean... is it the money? Is it that this genuinely aligns with their moral values?
It doesn't even matter, because we live in a culture now where there's people telling, like, every school should have a drag queen story hour. So it doesn't matter. If that's my doomerism. Like my black pill version of this is like, it's so far embedded in the culture already, and people are so willing to just either close their eyes or, like I said earlier, my natural instinct with almost everything in life is to try to see things from both sides of the aisle. And in this case, they use that against you. I know that that's not true, but I do feel like it bears like that. I'm telling you what the average uninitiated person who doesn't really understand what this means will say, which is like, I don't see it. because they don't understand, whether they don't see the doll or they don't understand why kids shouldn't be used in ads like this anyways. They take advantage of people's ignorance to these situations.
Yeah, and the activist class be it in whatever political leaning that you have, they're always the worst representatives of the constituency.
Yeah.
Because if you truly wanted to signal to a liberal base, I think they would be more appreciative of a campaign, about like universal healthcare than some thing like this. Sorry, I was about to curse. Of like something like this. Like I think they would happily stand behind that as opposed to this.
Well, here's one theory. It's that they are trying to get as much backlash as possible to increase their visibility. This tweet said, desperate attempts at outrage marketing are getting more and more disgusting because what else would be the reason why this was approved? Is it outrage marketing, or is this a genuine attempt at like pushing artistic boundaries?
If it was outrage marketing, wouldn't it be more blatant?
So that was the purpose of my diatribe in the beginning. So I worked in a provocative advertisement campaign that the purpose was to create not resentment, but like to create like a strong impulsive reaction to it. And it did. It absolutely did. It was on the newspapers and it eventually had to be recalled. But the thing is, it was sexual because it was a product that it gets consumed in the mouth, and we played on that. Mm-hmm. Okay? So the provocativeness had a purpose directly related to the product. I fail to see how this this line of direction in advertising and marketing has anything to do with it. Because this just feels like pure unadulterated signaling to the worst aspects of a certain political ideology.
When you look at the collection online, what you see are Balenciaga mugs and hoodies and like lifestyle wears. Nothing related to the BDSM teddy bears. Nothing at all.
Was that okay? Then that was the other question. Is that a product they're selling?
I didn't see it. I did not see it for sale on their website at all. It might have been an exclusive release for like runways.
That's even creepier because when you do product shoots, like I've got friends who do commercial photography, right? Nothing on that screen is by accident. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. Everything from the position, from where everything is placed in that photograph, that is designed. Yeah. Which means that if that's in there and it doesn't have a reason to be there, it's 1,000 times more suspicious.
Right. And there's just no ambiguity about the photograph of the court document, and I find it extremely suspicious that if this photographer didn't take that singular photo, I think he would have come out by now and said, hey, I took these photos but not this one. Yeah. Also, someone said, did you photograph the purse overlaying the CP case documents? How is that art, and how does that fit with the Toy Stories concept? Yeah. At best, you are a sellout, but it seems more likely this was the intent of the Toy Stories project all along. You wouldn't be the first to sexualize children in the name of art.
So one last thing, sorry. Do not believe any executive, manager, or higher up that was associated to this campaign that they didn't know anything. Because from experience, whenever you have a child in an advertisement campaign, that is a hellscape of documents that have to be signed in order to do it.
Legalities.
And it's not and it's not just from the people in the ground. It has to be from the higher ups as well. Yeah. So no one can plead ignorance with this. No one.
Yeah. It's
I have a strong feeling Balenciaga left Twitter to escape some accountability from this, because Twitter is the landscape where you're going to get flamed the most for this type of campaign. If you release it there, then it's fair game for debate. But if you leave the platform and you stay silent on other ones and you decide not to respond at all to the backlash, then it just gets memory hold faster.
I want to also point out that this is like my probably the black pill moment for me, the most out of all of them, was when I used to say, like, it'll draw the line at kids. They'll draw the line at kids. Yeah. Like when I was, like when they started gender affirming care and mutilating kids, like that was when, to me, I was like, nobody's going to allow this, right? People will start speaking up. And to see the rationalization that the public has continued to go through because somebody pays some disgusting expert to write a piece that says that in a psychology journal that says that that's what this is, right? And the average person is just like, well, he's the expert. What I know, but deep down what's right.
Yeah,
everyone does. But you're trained, whether it's because of the way the internet is to defer to what the experts say. And as we pushed back on that for the last 2 or 3 years. And I thought it was going to be at Drag Queen Story Hour that the public would push back. I thought it would be at Gender Affirming Care that the public would push back. But now it's being pushed into the mainstream advertising even more than it already was before. And I do wonder if this photographer, did he sign away his rights to these things? Was he always abusive and just signed his rights away to make a ton of money? Or did he come to them and pitch this idea?
You have to wonder, maybe he was scouted based on his Toy Stories campaign or his project to mirror that same aesthetic for the ad, but
yeah.
And then they took too many creative liberties that he didn't choose, but then he's still complicit in it. There's no escaping that. And really, this is just chipping away at our morale, first of all, and chipping away at...
I'm the perfect example of that working. Like, just literally, like... hanging your head and being like, when will people understand that how things matter? And they're experts at gaslighting. They know exactly how to be like, because I've had this conversation.
We're the artists. Yeah. You're the unwashed masses. You don't understand what art means. And maybe you should just be quiet on this because you're not an expert.
But not even just them. But like what I'll find is that I'll bring stuff like this up to friends who are on the more liberal end of the spectrum. I guess probably more leftist end of the spectrum. I still consider myself to be fairly liberal in a lot of cases. And I will point out this stuff is awful, right? And they'll be like, well, that's not happening. And you're like, yes, it is. I can absolutely show you. It's like, well, that's an isolated incident. I'm like, how many isolated incidents does
before
it require
it's a trend?
Before it's a trend or a pattern or something that can absolutely be shown to be part of the culture now, which is disgusting.
And it's tragic because this should not be a partisan issue at all. I don't think it is for a lot of people. This should be something everyone can get behind, that like, this shit is not okay.
And also, this is what you boycott. And this, there's people that work in Twitter right now. They are breaking a bunch of NDAs and contracts just because they don't like their current boss right now. And you can make fun of them for being sensible, but you know what? They have their values and they're standing for it at harm. And there is no harm in opposing this shit. And just everyone does is like, oh well, boo-hoo you. No, not boo-hoo. Like, F this. Completely. Like, take it down, apologize, take that product down, and they should be financially held accountable for doing garbage like this because there's laws.
Well, then the question is, how do you, what crimes are they charged with? And is it indecency? Is it decency laws? What do they charge with? Or is it just, I wouldn't be surprised if this was human trafficking.
I would not either at all.
Like, those pictures were like, it made me think of like, I have seen so many, like whether you've seen like pictures from newspapers or you've seen these busts and stuff like this. Remember the Wayfair ads where it's like, it was like a piece of furniture.
And it was named some really obscure name that turned out to be a missing person.
This is like twice as blatant and disgusting. It's like, it's almost like they're just going to expect you to be like, well, they wouldn't be that in our face about it, would they? Yes, they would.
Yeah, and that's part of the joke for them.
Yeah.
I don't... It seems like they have gone back on it, at least without responding publicly. They've scrubbed this from their social media. They have minimized it on their website. But where's the real accountability?
Yes, it shouldn't be enough. It shouldn't be enough. That's not enough. Taking it back is not enough. It's out there. We're watching it right now.
Okay.
It's not enough. Like,
who else needs to answer for this is Adidas, because their collaboration handbags with Balenciaga were pictured in the photograph that had that court document. And I just found out that it's from a 2008 Supreme Court case called United States versus Williams. And it involved a man named Michael Williams, who in April 2004 used a public internet chat forum to post a message offering to exchange child SA materials with other users in the group. And I'm not going to read what he actually said in that message. But this is a whole court case that they went and found from over a decade ago, printed out, and placed intentionally on this set,
which means
next to an Adidas Balenciaga purse,
which means it's an FU.
It's just
literally an FU.
Like, we can be as brazen as we want, and you can't do anything about it, and then we're gonna call it art.
In the chat, Sketch Therapy and several other people have mentioned that we should talk to Eliza Blue. Said you love her. She is wonderful. She specifically works in child rescue from human trafficking, so that might be something worth looking into.
Cool.
It's just these topics are the ones like I didn't even want to start with it because it's like it just makes me so sad, and all this stuff just it's like it
makes me angry.
Yeah, it breaks my heart, and it's like that I'm like sad first, and then I get angry because it just feels like no matter, like I said,
where do we get retribution? Because we see huge brands targeting individuals for, like, I mean, in Kanye's case, for tweeting things that are politically incorrect. Yeah. For tweeting the word shalom. Yeah. Okay? Like, the scale is just completely tipped. Like, it doesn't even exist anymore. We have no opportunity to, get our pound of flesh for, like, these real wrongdoings. But then when somebody says the wrong thing that's cancelable, then they get their job taken away. You lose billions of dollars.
It's always words, and they never that get in trouble.
They never lose any money when they do shit like this.
And it's always words that are punished, never actions.
Right.
That's why I'm so sick of. You can turn me up. I'm not gonna yell anymore. Or am I? That's why I'm so sick of, like, that. The counterculture is so satisfied with. Just like, isn't he a hypocrite with just saying that and everyone just being, yes, I agree, he is a hypocrite. It's not enough. Mm-hmm. It's not enough. Your stupid like argument that, this person a hypocrite, you guys, it hasn't done any good for anyone.
I always point out whenever people laugh at like the Instagram account Defiant L's, that these people that say one thing and then a day later they say something completely different. It's like, it's because they don't care. There's no truth but power to them, so they don't care that they don't care about being philosophically consistent or true to their actual word. They only care about power. Mm-hmm. So let's go.
We've talked about this for long enough, but main point is, this is not a conspiracy theory. These things really happen, and they need to be called out, and these huge corporations need to be held to account. Let's go to super chats. Call Me Snow Possum said, happy 30th birthday, Brett. Oh, wait, no, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me. I'm old now.
Dude, happy birthday.
Well, by calling yourself old, you're also calling
me older.
You're also calling Brett and Dane old.
Now my feelings are hurt.
I'm a legend.
Caber2X, I am not reading that.
Wow, that's a first.
Johnny Derp said that feel when you're... Wait. Oh, I'm not reading that either.
I have a feeling there's going to be more than a few not reading that for that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly funny because it's children, but whatever. Potatoes for Seamus said, how dare you shave the beard, Brett? Mary, hi. Dane, hi.
Yep.
Yes, I always regret it after I do it. I gotta stop doing that.
And Potatoes for Seamus, I'm not reading that one. David Christian said, for Brett, Red Letter Media's last video at the end has a root clowning on David Zaslav. Had me laughing so hard thinking of you.
I'll have to check it out. I love watching Zaslav strike down all the departments at Warner Media and make cuts where cuts need to be happening.
And Nathan Koss, I am not reading that. Not Alan Rogers said, remember folks, direct threats and violence are never okay. I don't know if I should continue reading that one either. Sorry. Caper2X said, "Are we going to ignore our beardless hero, Brett?"
Apparently not.
They usually don't notice you shaving this much.
Yes, I always regret it.
Whenever you shave, they normally don't even mention it, do they?
Oh, they do.
By the way, new conspiracy theory. I know why Brett likes Ben Affleck, because he's a fellow. How do you call it?
Cleft chin.
Cleft chin haver, or as we call it in Puerto Rico, butt chin.
That too.
Wayward Soul said Milo on Joe Rogan predicted the coming of corporate pederasts. Endgame normalize it and include with a plus sign.
Oh yeah, that was all.
Had to heavily edit this for YouTube to let me post.
The P and plus symbol was always going to end up in there, unfortunately, and that's the disgusting thing. Is it's like watching a slow motion accident that you can't prevent because you see like it's already gained too much steam in the culture. And this is where we come into the now I'm not trying to be rude I am trying to be rude, and it says like we've talked about there is such a thing as too much tolerance, like that there is such a thing as like if the idea of tolerance is just that you simply
yet your mind is so open that your brain falls out.
Yes, like there is such a thing where we've gotten to a point now where it's just like you can't just allow this stuff to happen just because you don't want to be seen. But that term, calling someone a bigot, holds special power in our culture right now, which is weird. That can be something that can get you fired from a company and lose millions of dollars, but the actual disgusting behavior causes you no problems.
This is something I heard on a Destiny stream. His parents were telling him, don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out.
Yeah.
Brie Louise, I totally agree with you, but I cannot say that because I think it will be taken out of context. And she said, judgment will come.
Based?
Do you okay, then I have one more question, because somebody mentioned in the chat here, they said, I feel so bad for legit LGBTQ folks who are being treated as human shields for these monsters.
Absolutely.
It's up to them. It's like
I disagree, but let's not get into why.
Yeah, like it's like
I disagree, because I think it's all part of one big push. I don't think that there's as much distinction as you might think. Ronan Jack said, saying no to this is not enough. No may stop, but not reverse the course. We need an organization to retroactively enforce our laws.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing, like with the internet and with culture that changing as fast as it does, it's almost, we all know how slow it is for change in when it comes to lawmaking, right? Like it's just never going to catch up with how fast these things move.
Bad App said, you said I'm not reading that 2 times. I've been summoned.
Hello, Bad App.
He's here. Call Me Snow Possum said, I may have called you old, but you're my senior, so you always get nothing but respect from me.
Oh, well, thank you. You too, Dane, because you're also older.
Potatoes for Seamus said, today's sponsor is I'm not reading that.
Yeah, basically.
That's great.
All right, we're going to move on, guys. That is like, I need a shower. I do.
We can clean. We can cleanse our palates now, talking about the new CEO of Disney.
All right, so basically,
not new, exactly.
No, not new. That's the funny thing about this, guys. So Bob Chapek, as they called him, Bob Chapek is gone from Disney, and Bob Iger is now back. And that is, he's back to train his replacement, basically, in the next few years. But let's be real. Bob Chapek was fired because of a horrible fourth quarter earnings report and inability to actually guide the company in the direction they need to go. Here's my problem is I don't think that this is in any way, shape, or form the right move, because most of the problems that Bob Chapek inherited outside of the pandemic were started long before him, when Bob Iger was reigning supreme over there at Disney, when he had political ambitions and wanted to make Disney a more political company for the sake of both his future aspirations and because he felt that there was marketable means there, whether that was because of ESG funding. I don't know. I can't speak to that. That is one of those topics that, being is that I'm not a finance guy, I can't define it perfectly, but I go by what I feel. And it feels like when a company changes their business model that drastically, that there has to be an incentive outside of actually caring about the messaging. Because I don't believe for a second that a corporation actually cares about messaging or human rights or any of the things that they claim that they talk about. But what I want to ask is this, which is Iger has always, from what I understand, been very critical of Chapek behind the scenes. magnanimous in public. That's your job as a CEO, right? But like, what do you think they're paying him? Like, I bet you he got offered an absolutely obscene amount of money.
Well, sure, but then Chapek's severance package, I'm sure, is also insane.
Well, if not, I don't know if there would be a severance package or it's just they bought out his contract. Does that include the
report is that he had a hefty severance. Yeah. So I mean, it seems like they're on good enough terms. What I hate about this is people taking this and running with it as a narrative about get woke, go broke, and how this is some huge victory either for Disney or for the audiences who consume their products. It's not.
It's going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse. Bob Iger is not, I mean, if anything, he is more politically motivated than Chapek was. People are mainly
Chapek got bullied into being politically motivated by activists when Don't Say Gay, when the parental rights and education bill came out, he was basically bullied by activists within the company to take a stance on it. He initially said that they weren't going to have an opinion on stuff like this, and then the problem is he wasn't strong enough. He didn't stick by his principles, and he bent the knee, and from there on I think he was dead in the water.
Then everything else that he ever said was torn to pieces. Like he recently made these comments about how animation is only for children and not something that adults are interested in without children in the room. And then he just got flamed on all over Twitter for saying that. So now people are saying like Disney content is going to get so much better now that Iger is back.
Iger was responsible for the sequel trilogy.
Here's what I want.
He made that horrible. He's the one who took George Lucas wrote like a draft of like the new sequel trilogy, and they're just like and then threw it away.
Listen, if they wanna keep being woke, let them keep being woke to the point of insolvency. Let's see a historic generational company literally become insolvent and disappear out of nothing. If that's what needs to happen for the global consciousness to realize that this movement of being just pissy about everything is unliked and unprofitable, let it be.
That's highly optimistic, Dane. The thing is, Disney is woke. They're not broke. They're for the foreseeable future. They are not going to be broke or anywhere remotely close to it. Yes, they are operating at a loss of like near $2 billion, right? But they're able to do that because they're anti-fragile at this point.
But
and no change of CEO is going to change that. And it's not ideological.
You can only lose $2 billion for so long. You can only lose $2 billion a year for so long. Keep doing it.
They're planning for Disney Plus to eventually become profitable. That's what they say.
But they went into a hiring freeze and layoffs. And the funny thing is, I remember in June, there was already reports coming out about how bad it was doing financially. But it's like, if you want to talk about gaslighting, one of the things that Hollywood trades, like the magazines, are fantastic at is gaslighting. And they were like writing these glowing articles about Chapek, like, oh, he weathered a storm of the parental rights and education bill. Now Disney is flush with cash, and they're making all these great shows on Disney Plus that people love. And like what, it took less than 4 months for him to realize, for them to realize that it was never going to work with him in charge.
A lot of people conflated. Thank you
guys.
Conflated Chapek with David Zaslav, and now they're basically saying they hope Zaslav will be next as far as CEOs getting sacked at their own companies.
Zaslav was given a much harder task than Chapek. Disney should have been fine with Chapek as long as he had continued to make movies that went to the theaters and at least made a profit and rolled out Disney Plus at a rate. And they've gotten fantastic subscription growth, but there's so much more consolidation that needs to go for a company like Warner Brothers Discovery when they're consolidating jobs downwards. The other thing is, I think Chapek was just pandemic guinea pig. He was the fall guy. Did you ever see that graphic? Somebody made a graphic like right after COVID-19 started where it showed like 50 separate companies that all had CEOs step down a month before the pandemic was announced. Like, I think that's what this was. I think that they're just like, we need somebody to get us through this. And he just couldn't even rise him to the task of doing this. So they have to bring back Iger, who's going to have to train his replacement. And there's going to be a lot of damage. And what are they going to do if they're not? You said yes, they're not broke, but they're not making the record profits they were making before. Bob Iger's business model was to buy up properties and then turn them into IP franchises. Who is he going to buy up that they're going to have the time to turn into the next billion-dollar franchise before his time comes and the new guy steps in?
Pop Culture Crisis, sponsored by Disney. Hey guys, wasn't She-Hulk great last week?
Oh my gosh, I love that episode. Have you seen that new episode of Rey on the new Star Wars? I love it so much. I love girl boss characters so much. It's my favorite.
Remember when she said guys should die? I agree. Oh
my god. Did you see her twerking?
I did
with Megan Thee Stallion. That
perfect
was so
form.
Good. Like I'll tell you know what? I'll take the money. Let's go Disney. Let's go.
That literally made my life. It's really giving Chapek.
And the thing is with Iger being highly critical of Chapek in private, I wonder if this is just he's laughing. He's like, they can't do it without me.
Do you think that Iger might have been critical of him for issues related to social justice?
Yes, I think that
because I feel like while Iger is ideological, he wasn't brought back for ideological reasons.
I think partially because his name recognition will stabilize investors, will stabilize stock prices probably after the free fall. The idea is that, but the thing is, it also sends a weak signal when you just oust someone. When a CEO leaves a company, they don't leave they're not just suddenly removed that day. They leave a year from now, and then they slowly make their exit as they train a replacement. They're like, Bob Chapek is stepping away. I'm like, no, he's not. He was fired. Like, you don't want to say that in the statement, and you might be buying out his contract, but he was fired.
Yeah, I find it mind-blowing how every side and every corner of this debate is taking a huge dose of copium to interpret this as a win for their side.
Yeah.
This one tweet said, Disney made the right decision. Perhaps it was purely financial, but either way, Iger helped stand up for LGBTQ employees while Bob Chapek stayed silent as Don't Say Gay passed.
But
Chapek's indifference cemented the trend of corporations saying nothing as LGBT employees suffered.
How did they suffer?
So now Bob Iger is coming in to be the hero for his LGBTQ plus employees. That's their ideological win. And then I saw this other tweet from Christopher Rufo saying, Disney has fired CEO Bob Chapek, who pushed critical race theory and gender ideology in the company's programming and employee training. Huge rebuke of woke leadership. Like, either way you spin it, it's not true.
Yeah.
Like, he can either be the woke villain that you want him to be, or he can be the villain against wokeness, right? So I just don't think that this was ideological at all. I think he's just caught in the crossfire, and he said there would be layoffs, but people joked he didn't know he would be part of that.
I do think that in part, I don't think the decision is inherently ideological or political. I think that hiring him back comes with that, whether it's part of the baggage of it, but it's also one of those things where
I just find it laughable.
Who do you get outside of him? Who the hell is qualified?
Who else is named Bob
to take? Who else would have been qualified that would know the company intimately enough, would have enough of the business relationships that they've built up over the years to try and steady the ship while they market themselves into a better place. I also think that this is a rebuke of streaming. I think that this was every company bet their bottom dollar on the streaming wars when the pandemic hit, and as the pandemic passes and we enter a recession, and people, it's one thing to go out to a movie once a month and spend a whole crap ton of money, but having 10 different streaming services, people aren't. That ain't it, right?
Streaming?
So it's proving that through this medium that it wasn't the financial boon that they thought it would be, and they're paying the price for that now.
Dude, absolutely. Streaming was only cool when everything was on one platform.
Yeah. Yeah, when Netflix had literally everything.
Yeah, it was only, they should have licensing deals with Netflix or something else. And honestly, companies need to get out, except for Walmart when it releases Walmart Plus.
I think that when Disney was beginning Disney Plus right as the pandemic hit, or right before and then right during that time when everyone was locked in their homes, they thought that they could continue this routine churning out mediocre, predictable content siphoning excitement off of existing franchises with existing fan bases. And they just thought that strategy would work forever. And now they see that post-pandemic, it's failing. And now you can see them inflating prices for like all of their amusement park stuff to make up for it, and making that into a new economy.
Relying on influencers and not even middle class, but upper middle class to like just the rich. Are the only ones that can
to the childless, truly.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like, it's funny too, because then they were talking about, what was it? Because they're talking about Deadpool 3, and they're talking about how are they going to make Deadpool 3 when Disney, has their rules about, or in the past they've had the rules about what could be put on their page. Remember, what was the movie where they fixed her hair so it wouldn't cover her butt? I remember, you know what I'm talking about.
It was that mermaid one.
So like Disney has these rules, right? But they're slowly moving away from it because it's slowly not a kids company anymore. It's for adults who have memories of when they were kids.
Yeah, I think that was part of the huge appeal of Disney Plus at first, is the nostalgia factor. Yep. Before they, started these new original series like, Andor and all of these like just trash garbage Star Wars and Marvel shows.
I wonder if maybe
completely forgettable stuff, by the way. I wonder now that nostalgia factor is not there anymore.
Yeah.
People have had their fill.
I wonder if Iger finally got found out that he's not going to be able to run for president, and now he's just he has to slink back to Disney. The however many $1 million contract that he retired with wasn't enough. He has to keep working. But I guess once you reach that level of success, right, you're working is your life, and you don't know how to not work.
Oh, true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure sitting at home for a dude who's made it that far, who's had that much power, is just excruciating.
Yeah.
He's going.
That's what's scary about all of these executives.
Bossing his maids around. It's not hit. It just doesn't hit different the way it does when he's bossing people around at Disney. So he has to go back there. I'm surprised. He could have started his own company. I wouldn't have been surprised if he was to launch his own smaller company with his name recognition and the power behind it. He could have started kind of like that guy who left Jim Abbott or Bill Abbott, the guy who left Hallmark for Great American Family.
But the problem is Bill Abbott left Hallmark for ideological reasons, where he almost basically was ousted by the board members who were pro-LGBT and anti-Christian.
It makes woker Disney.
Bob Iger he would leave Disney and then just make Disney, but somehow even more woke.
That would be really funny. I would actually be really funny to see that. It's just
there's no reason for him to take it on his own independent journey.
Yeah.
I also have to read this tweet. It says, "I'm at Disneyland and just told Goofy that Bob Chapek is out, and he said, yuck, yeah."
So what's gonna come of this?
That's a very good question. I wonder if he could end up wanting to put Star Wars back on the movie screen rather than the TV screen. It would be interesting to see him kind of pare back the focus on Disney streaming. They need to get. I'm sick of streaming. I'm sick of 9,000 of everything and all of it's mediocre.
You guys would know what would be funny? If we get to 30 crisis parties, not only make Hannah Claire watch Fast and Furious, but all the Star Wars movies and shows.
She would literally just
By the way, I don't know if this is true, but rumor has it that Tim was trying to excuse Hannah Claire of watching Tokyo Drift because it's technically not part of the continuity of the movies.
Gotta watch it.
That doesn't mean it's not part of the franchise, and that does not mean it wasn't part of her contract. She doesn't get to slink her way out of watching Tokyo Drift that easily.
You don't have any power here.
Imagine
Except you do, but
the struggle to pick your successor for a position like this that's been, I think Iger was there for 15. I mean, he was there for 40 years, but he was the CEO for 15 years.
I'm sure they've already got some people in mind.
There's got and that's the hard part. When you're at a position like that, your job is so cutthroat. Chapek comes in, you're not going to keep. It's the same thing with presidential cabinets, right? You're not going to keep Iger's advisors. They're going to be loyal to Iger. You have to bring in your own people. You're going to have to vet your own people. So it's a whole process. And like I said, if he was actually just choosing to leave the company, he would have left slowly Chapek would have left slowly over the course of a couple of years while training a replacement. He wouldn't have just been ousted in the middle of the night and gotten a text that said, "You're out of a job, dude."
He just got ghosted one day.
Yeah, he's like texting back.
His access key card doesn't work anymore.
He's like, and he goes to the front desk. He's like, there seems to be a mistake here. And like the secretary's like,
how do we tell him?
How do we tell him?
Let's go to Super Chats, guys. Tacti Platty said, when is PCC dating app coming? Not for me, though. Well, why not for you? The only thing we have so far as a prototype is just the live chat. We're going to wait on that, see if there are any success stories from that.
That's how I met my girlfriend.
Then we'll start business planning for the dating app, okay? Maybe it'll be called Bad App. Dragon's Talon 1001 said, Yuri Bezmenov explained exactly what is happening in his ideological subversion speech.
Yeah, that speech becomes way more relevant every single day.
I haven't heard of it before. I'll look at that.
Yes.
Harold Wiley said, Brett, I too have a cleft chin. Growing up, guys would make fun of it, and the girls all said it looked good. I wonder if anyone else had the same experience.
Also, guys, speaking of what Dane said earlier about my chin reminding him of Ben Affleck, and that must be why I watch Batman, go watch Dave Cullen, if you follow his YouTube channel. He has a new video that just came out about why he believes that Ben Affleck, Batfleck, is the Batman we need right now. I highly recommend you go check it out. It is, at the very least, a very logical and well thought out video, even if you disagree with it.
Bad App said, Brett failed No Shave November and since we... Oh, no, I'm not going to read
Oh, God.
He almost got you that time.
Yikes.
Oy.
Not Alan Rogers said, no, guys, we're winning, I promise. That's both sides right now. That's the woke side and the anti-woke side. I think that the whole thing is in flux right now. We don't know which direction we're going.
Does it also make it feel like it's always redundant? Like everyone's always like, these companies are collapsing, but here we are. Warner Brothers has all these problems. We just saw recently they're like, now there's not as much forward movement on that Superman movie as we thought. Like all this stuff with Disney getting rid of Chapek in favor of Iger. Maybe I'm just impatient, but I'm always like, nothing ever comes of
Nothing ever happens. Everything is fake and gay.
It's all fake.
Waffle Sensei said, facts. Tim clapped back at me on IRL and said, she doesn't have to watch Tokyo Drift. I'm livid. Tim, you have no power over 118 Gang, Crisis Nation, or Waffle House. Tokyo Drift forever.
Dude.
118 Gang? I don't want you to be part of 118 Gang.
What's 118 Gang?
That was...
it's our literal generational trauma from last week's tech issues.
All the episodes cut off at exactly an hour and 18 minutes.
Oh, incredible.
So I'm still waiting for merch. Do you guys want 118 merch? I said 118 never forget, but I don't think that's allowed.
My episode went flawlessly. Coincidence? Oh, no, wait,
it didn't.
No, it didn't.
What? You just washed that out from your memory.
I did.
Like, it was perfect because I was on it. Noel Lee said, if a tree falls in the forest, do the squirrels sleep sideways?
That's a good question.
Aw, the poor squirrels.
Maybe.
1,000-foot deep end said, Cary Grant had a cleft chin too. That is all. But is there a difference between a dimple in the chin and then the cleft? Because the cleft is like a full, like...
That's a good question. I don't know.
It goes all the way down the chin.
What is the difference?
I think a cleft chin would be the straight line. And the dimple is this little circle.
We learn something new every day.
The difference is you'd make a terrible Batman.
I would. Well, yeah, because I'm too short. I'm too short to play Batman. I can't do. I can't do a deep enough voice to do Batman. That's the problem.
Tacti Platty said, LOL, not for me because hoping to marry fiance next year. Good luck with that. But also dating app idea from my quote retweet of you, Mary, since I'm a Mary reply guy now. LOL.
You've got your own reply guy.
Oh, nice. I didn't see that, but I'll go look. Thank you, reply guy. High Voltage 75 said, no Mary on IRL. Did HC usurp your spot? Basically, I just didn't want to do it that night, so she took my place.
It was a long week.
Yeah, but
is that how you spell usurp?
What do you mean? That seems correct.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'm expecting to be on tonight, unless I change my mind again. St. Miles.
I'm being such a toxic
I'm
bitch
so
today.
Toxic and unreliable.
I might or might not. Who knows?
Just tune in and find out. St. Miles said, just a thank you for the work that has changed the entertainment direction.
I would hope that if not ours alone, but to be part of like a machine that gives people, I would like to hope that one day, right, that there's like somebody who gets hired at these companies, kind of like the way that like really, really woke activists, again, I hate that word, get hired at these companies and they start making changes incrementally from the bottom up as they rise through the ranks, usually in HR departments. I would hope that eventually people get hired at these companies that start to take notice of what smaller channels that represent a larger scope of people than big companies realize, and then start moving away from what people are saying on Twitter and focusing more on what people are making output about. Because it arguably, it takes less work to just write an angry tweet than it does to actually make videos and talk about things that you care about in like the direction you'd like to see media go. And I would like to think that maybe we should start putting it on like a sliding scale. Like, sure, we got 1,000 tweets about this, but 1,000 tweets doesn't take a whole lot of effort to make, but it does take more effort to make videos about this stuff. Maybe that indicates a certain level of dedication to what they're talking about that might be worth factoring into their decision about what changes to make.
Mm-hmm. You gotta hope that it pays off in the end.
Exactly.
I need to stop watching YouTube. I am not reading that. I'm sorry. David Christian said, routine, think tiny letters and autocorrect. I look 30, but I'm in my 60s, and so are my eyes.
Wow.
Oh, you're good. No problem.
Good luck.
He said root instead of routine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're moving on. All right, so this is what I saw on Sunday, and I had a lot to say about it. So, as you know, the World Cup is going on, and this is one of those things that I watched this video. It's of Morgan Freeman as he does the opening ceremonies to the World Cup, and I had a couple of thoughts off the bat about the performance, and I do encourage you guys to go watch it after the show.
I so wish that we could show it to you here because it was insane to watch. It made me feel like very creeped out and unsettled. Brett didn't get the same impression, but
once
it just felt like
yes.
globalist doom, like impending doom. Like it gave me existential dread to the max.
The first thing I wrote down was the hypocrisy of globalization, meaning that what we're talking about here. So I'm going to read like a quotes of what he says here. So Morgan Freeman, remember, he's strolling along, badly lip syncing this thing. I don't know if that's his fault or if
it was really bad.
But he says, "So we gather here as one big tribe, and Earth is the tent we live in." Intoned in a lip syncing and solemn Freeman on the field at Al Bayt Stadium in the opening minutes of the extravagant opening ceremony. And he goes under this huge spiel, him and this co-host who's also, it was a double amputee.
Yeah,
right?
His co-host was some influencer or YouTuber from Qatar.
And what it is they give this very big, soaring rhetoric about how we can overcome our differences, and although we may live a world away, we may be worlds apart as far as our distance, are we really all that different, right? Now, this is obviously hilariously hypocritical, given that we are in an age now where, first of all, there's questions about whether they like bribed to get the rights to even host this World Cup, but they have shined a light on the LGBTQ issues in that community. Mary, me, different takes on LGBTQ.
Well, okay, but they're what some people, including Dua Lipa, have called out is human rights violations in regard to migrant workers in the country, in regard to how they treat LGBT people and women. Yeah. And there are valid concerns all across the board on those issues.
Did you see the USA?
All that I think is like when you compare where the US is at with those issues and when you compare it to how Qatar treats those people, there is somewhere in the middle that I would think is ideal. Okay? Yeah. So like, I'm not saying that there aren't human rights violations that they should call out and be worried about in this country. And I do think it's relevant to point out when they host the World Cup there. And really what they're trying to do is constantly shift the focus to something else. They're shifting the focus to, you know, how inclusive they're being on the public stage, but they're trying to distract from all of the exploitation of workers it took for that country to be built to where it is today.
Yes.
So I still think that it's valid for people to point out.
Here's
and
my
boycott if they want.
Yes, and this is what I'm talking about. These types of messages, if you guys remember, you're too young to remember the original one, so am I, but We Are the World. About the okay. Think of
with like Michael Jackson.
Yes, think We Are the World. They did a similar one in 2010 because of Haiti.
They did, yeah.
And then we have the Olympics with their soaring rhetoric at their opening games. This is where the internet has benefited us. These types of weird globalist messaging, which are extremely hypocritical and honestly, for the most part, you cannot bring this many cultures together and expect one soaring message to actually be authentic. And this is where the internet has allowed us to come together and point out these hypocrisies. But it also speaks to the divide in our culture where back in the day, everyone would have unified around this message, but the message would have been a lie.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of pushback to this, but then most of the response to what you're saying, Brett, has been, well, the West is just as bad, which is insane to say. Like, here's one tweet that I believe was like echoing what you're saying. They said his message, or Morgan Freeman's message, is I will take a huge fee for shilling for this shameful organization while I privately complain to my friends about how their workers are treated. So yeah, it's hypocritical on that front, but some people are saying, actually, it's hypocritical for Western people to call this out because in the West, human rights violations of the same caliber are perpetrated all the time and excused all the time of the same scale. What they're saying is that, like,
not wanting drag queens in schools is the same thing.
Here's something Piers Morgan said, which I found idiotic to, like, a shocking extent. He said that the U.S. has draconian laws against abortion, which is equal, apparently, to the fact that many Middle Eastern and African countries literally execute gay people.
How good are they? How good are they at branding that not killing babies is draconian?
I mean, how you feel about abortion aside,
yes.
If you think that, like, the fact that Roe v. Wade was overturned in the U.S. is a human rights violation on the same level as, like, what Qatar has been called out for, you are brainwashed.
Also, it's further proof of the West's inability to actually take action because they could have just not gone. But instead, they'll put a flag on their jersey and say we did our part because they don't actually want to put their money where their mouth is. The same with I saw that a bunch of the European teams had like armbands, and then they're not wearing them because of threat of arrest. So this is what I'm talking about. You put on this massive ceremony, and I like the part with the amputee was quite stirring. But that's my other point here.
It was creepy.
The other point here is like this speaks to the absolute power of what a good performer can get people to feel, whether it's real or not, and that should terrify everyone.
Everyone calling this ceremony beautiful and moving and magical.
I feel like that era's gone now. I
don't see it. I'm not buying it.
I feel like that is an AstroTurf take where like 25 years ago, I would believe that. I would believe that was the general sentiment. I think that the internet, the democratization of our information being passed from one to one another, I think that prevents this type of thing from having the impact it would have had when I was a child.
I mean, I wouldn't have known from personal experience, but I believe you that... I mean, you might have assumed things were more authentic back then.
How? Okay.
Let me read some tweets that were expressing this though about like the hypocrisy of us as Westerners. Someone said, "Funny how the whole Western world is built on robbing, killing people in the world and destroying civilizations, claiming this." Another person said, the best part about Qatar hosting the FIFA World Cup is how the Western world is having a complete meltdown, realizing there exists a world and culture outside of their bubbles and exposing their hypocrisy with the sudden concern about human rights violations in the country. Another person said, have the same energy when the World Cup is held in the USA. That's going to be in 2026. It's going to be hosted by Canada, the US, and Mexico, by the way. Bring up their war crimes, what they did in Afghanistan, Yemen, Libya, Iraq, the millions they killed in the Middle East. How do these people criticize Qatar? The hypocrisy is crazy. But like, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, sure. No one is saying you can't talk about the the possible hypocrisies of Westerners.
I would absolutely ask anyone to still do that.
All they're doing is calling it out in Qatar, and then the fact that they did this fake display hiring Morgan Freeman to go on stage and talk about how we can all come past our differences and everyone's living in one big kumbaya circle around the globe. Like, when you say that, then you deserve to be called out even more.
The internet is here, ladies and gentlemen. The days of kumbaya are long gone.
I want to also, people were trashing BBC, by the way, because they replaced this ceremony from being televised with a monologue from Gary Lineker talking about these concerns of human rights in Qatar. They did not televise Morgan Freeman's monologue at all on the BBC. And I think that's also just like idiotic, senseless self-hatred of people in the West, in all like European countries. The same thing comes from FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino. He delivered this insane speech that was like an hour long on the eve of the World Cup.
Yeah.
And here are some things that he said that were honestly embarrassing. He said, we are taught many lessons from Europeans, from the Western world. What we Europeans have been doing for the last 3,000 years, we should be apologizing for the next 3,000 years before starting to give moral lessons. He continued, today I feel Qatari. I feel Arab. I feel African. I feel gay. I feel disabled. I feel a migrant worker.
Well, you should consult your mental health professional.
Yeah.
Because you got issues.
How do you say this and take yourself seriously?
It's all so skin deep and so fake.
Truly.
Like, there's
That's
nothing
how I felt,
real anymore.
Like watching the co-host who was a double amputee. It's like, no problem with him being an influencer, being a performer, whatever. All of he's like a business owner. He is outspoken about, disabilities and that's fine, whatever. But it's really just the pretense of having him on that stage that it makes me feel uneasy, because it's like all the appearances of having compassion for people who are at a disadvantage, and then when you look at the reality, when you look at it on an individual case by case basis, it's not actually related to how these people are treated in real life, especially, I'm sure, not in Qatar.
We just need
He goes to Europe. This influencer said he goes to Europe every year to get surgeries that intervene in his condition so it doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
He doesn't go to a Qatari doctor to do that for him. Like, I'm just saying, like, the reality of it speaks volumes compared to the pomp and circumstance of this ceremony that's so self-aggrandizing.
The size in it did, maybe it's just a case of like it coming to feel that way because you pointed out, but it does feel like weirdly demonic after you watch it. And it's just the tone they were going for. Does this just mean we're at the end of like, there cannot be any more of these like, look at us, we're all one, kumbaya family? It's just not realistic, and it's not the way the world works. And it's time to accept that, yes, every country has their own skeletons in their closet, but the point is that you don't throw stones in a glass house, because everyone is guilty of something like this, at least from the perspective of someone else. You're not in a world anymore where you say something like that and you're just surrounded by people that know you or part of your culture. So they're like, yeah, you're right. You're going to be getting pushback from people who don't agree with you, who don't live where you live, who see the world differently than you do, which makes these types of things pointless, creepy, and overall ineffective.
It's a glass world, and we're a glass species in that regard.
Yeah, basically.
And I agree with the general consensus of the chat is that you should boycott the World Cup because soccer is lame.
So
right, you watch this ceremony and you're like, excuse me, what does this have to do with soccer again?
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
This is just a vehicle for their social engineering.
It's like they take things that people like soccer or football, depending on
Morgan Freeman's voice.
and they just
Brett,
use
don't
it.
You dare
Call it football.
Yeah, I mean,
football.
Ben Affleck as Batman is one thing. Football is a whole nother thing.
I didn't play soccer growing up, so I have no real attachment to it at all. I played baseball and
that should be a hiring question here. Did you play soccer or not? No? Welcome.
Ellen Thompson says, but shaming and criticism causes change. Agreed? Disagree?
It depends on if you're talking about an individual or a brand or a government. I don't think that the government of Qatar is going to change any of their policies and how they treat women or LGBT people or migrant workers based on, Dua Lipa not performing there.
And here's the thing. I don't it's not my job to change their culture, right? It's their job to change their culture.
Yeah, but it's about your freedom of conscience. And if you don't want to associate, then you don't have to.
Exactly. So when I say it's like, host your World Cup, do what you want to do, have Morgan Freeman there, but maybe don't preach to
us about how this is actually a win for wokeness.
Yes, that's what like. Don't preach to me when you clearly have not made any changes. It's so frontal and fake and surface level, and everyone sees through that now.
They don't though. Most people fell for it. If you look at the social media response to Morgan Freeman, they fell for it. 1,000%.
Oh, on the YouTube channel, I was shocked by how many people are like, he's the voice of it. And I love Morgan Freeman as an actor. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like the people who put this into effect, right? They're like, yes, the world is coming together. I'm like,
it sounds weirdly maniacal when they say it like that.
It's just that voice, man. He could say anything. He could be like, it's time for grilled cheese on mouse. And
sounds really
everyone
good.
Would do it.
But then I would agree with him.
Yes.
I know.
If he said that. Let's go to Super Chats.
All right, we got a couple.
Dragon Stalin 1001 said, merch idea. We can't take it now that you've pitched it. Said, picture of Mary with the writing Mary 118. Dear God, not again.
See, I just want one that was like, remember Stone Cold Steve Austin had Austin 316? I want one that says Brett 316.
I guess I'm
Brett 118.
I'm guessing that's the reference.
Yeah. Oops.
I need to stop watching YouTube, said guitar. Wait, what?
I don't know.
I don't get it. Bobcat said, everyone is boycotting the World Cup because of Qatar. I'm boycotting it because soccer is boring.
Yes.
This is Dane on his sock account right now. The Last of My Kind said, rest in power, Jason David Frank, OG Green Ranger.
Yeah, I'm going to say a few words. Just real, we're in the middle of the show. Like, so I was baffled. Like, I was actually shocked by how big the response was to this. It was on my social media bigger than the response that I saw for Kevin Conroy, right? So that was shocking to me. And the big thing about Jason David Frank is we're not going to mention the word of what happened, but they say self-deletion, but it raises concerns about mental health. He had 4 kids. He was going through a divorce, and he had appeared to have everything going for him. This is a guy who loved his job. He loved playing a Power Ranger. He fought MMA professionally for a couple of years. Yeah, for like 2 years. But here's the thing. We're in an age now where we watch all of these superhero actors who pretend like they love these characters when it's very clear that they don't give a crap about them. They see them as a vehicle to improve their career. This is a guy who took a role when he was very young, and he continued with it, and he embraced it, and he put it in, and he put everything he had into this role, and he loved going to conventions. He loved talking to fans. Like, that is the opposite of what we see from celebrities nowadays. And to me, I push back sometimes when people talk about celebrities have no problems, right? The argument's always like, oh, you're rich. What do you have to deal with, right? I don't think that that's a fair assessment of what people from who do well in the world go through. I think that the human mind is malleable, and as your circumstances change, your brain, and you will form new problems and you'll have new things to overcome. Just because they're not the problems that we have to overcome doesn't mean that they don't have them. And millions of men especially struggle in silence every single day. And I just thought that the shocking part to me was that the response I saw was of nothing. Like, friends that I know who are, they like movies and TV, but I don't really hear them talking about it very much, talking about how much they loved this guy. And certainly for me, I didn't watch any of the later iterations of Power Rangers, but I was there for that original saga when he was started as the Green Ranger, and then I had to go through all the anxiety of watching him beat the crap out of all the Power Rangers until he finally became the White Ranger at the end of the season, right? So he was a very big influence on a lot of people, and to see something like this happen to someone who seems like they have everything going for them, it's just something to think about, and I just wanted to say rest in peace to him.
That my small contribution to that is that Personally, I learned how to speak English watching Power Rangers.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
Literally.
That's awesome.
It's also it also speaks to why these mediums matter. You win hearts and minds with these characters, with these stories, with these performances. It's why being an actor, as much as we rag on actors from time, most of the time, you understand the importance that, or the power that role has when you've got the media machine behind you and you've got all this backing. It's why I think that conservatives particularly lose, because they dismiss these professions out of pocket. If somebody like this can change that many lives from a TV show from when I was a child, it is not something to discount, and it's something that, one, do not discount the profession or what these things mean to people, and two, do not discount somebody's struggles just because they're a celebrity. It does not mean that they're not going through something.
Tim has a really great point of view on that. He says that money is, I think he says, like a magnifying glass, where it just accentuates things of your character. So if you're affluent and you're generous, then you're just going to be more generous.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in his case, it seemed like it maybe disturbs his troubles.
Yeah. Like I said, he had struggles going through a divorce, 4 kids. I think somebody also said that he lost a stepdaughter to the same thing. Not long ago. So like troubles, right? But it's hard because when we do this job, we do a lot of critiquing, which is actually hard for me because I'm very much like I don't like to criticize person, right? So it's like you have to figure out how to both do that while understand that I'm trying to criticize larger ideas, but not necessarily always an individual, because I don't know what that person's circumstances, what they're going through. To just always be aware of it. We still have to do our job. We still have to have our critiques of how these things affect our culture. We critique movies you critique movies very harshly, and I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt most of the time because I'm a sap and I'm easily satisfied, I guess. But it is what it is, but it was something to think about. So rest in peace. He gave us a lot of great memories as a kid. And obviously, like I said, Dane helped you learn to speak English.
That's how I learned.
It's amazing.
We've got another super chat from The Last of My Kind that said, if you're fighting the battle within, reach out.
Yes.
True.
Do not be afraid to it's invariably men suffer in silence. And a lot of times, like a Robin Williams, the ones who you would think are the least prone to being depressed are oftentimes the most depressed. So check on your friends, check on the people you care about. Don't be afraid to start a conversation, and do not be afraid to reach out to people. There is somebody somewhere that cares. I promise you this.
There's a quote that completely changed my life, and it was on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe said, most men live lives of silent desperation. Yeah. And no words have potentially have ever cut deeper than that for me. And, if you're in silent desperation, don't be there, honestly. Sorry for that.
And Duke said, Green Ranger gave us bad kids hope we could atone.
I invite everyone to. First of all, I had the white saber sword and the dragon dagger, or the dragon dagger that he played music in, though it never made sense because he's playing music. He's got a mask on. It's the greatest thing ever. It made no sense. Those shows did show you that people can come back from bad behavior, and not all is lost. All right.
Those are all the super chats.
All right, guys, we are moving on. Now that we've done this, we're going to talk about Raven-Symoné. So Raven-Symoné, the show That's So Raven. Did you watch that show growing up?
That's So Raven is definitely more of an old Zoomer, Kino.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was really into the show. Yeah. The Zoomers, at least of my age range, I think definitely watched that show.
It came when I was a teen.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so
must have been. So she has this spin-off reboot version of the show called Raven's Home, and she talked about how when this show was being conceived and as it's developed, it's at its 6th season, right? Disney has prompted her to incorporate her real life sexual identity into the show, where she is portraying a divorcee raising kids.
My favorite part is that they just assume she wants to.
Yeah, they just assume, like, we're gonna make Raven into a lesbian in the show, right?
Let's read the quote. She says, I think Disney wanted her to be queer in the beginning, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing that, she noted. Now remember, this actress is both non-binary and married to a woman.
I'm pretty sure she doesn't mean queer in in the beginning of the first show.
No, in the yes,
but in the reboot, they wanted to incorporate her new sexual orientation.
They were like, "Do you want Raven to be gay?" I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because you are." I said, "Bad reason. That's a bad reason." Yes, it is an absolutely stupid, unintelligent, lowest IQ reason.
In the original series, she did openly have interest in guys in the show. So you can't say that she's just suddenly a lesbian. At the very least, then you would just force her to be attracted to women in the show suddenly when that wasn't part of the original character.
This happens in TV all the time. You get into season 6 and a character that never showed any hint of being a different sexuality just suddenly is like, I am. And they never, it's just, and that to me, it's like.
Mostly like women who are just like suddenly bisexual.
Yes. And here's the thing. I used to think it was just bad writing, but I really do believe that it's beyond just being bad writing. It's literally supposed to just like muddy the waters into thinking that that's just the way the world is, that you just suddenly change. Like, your preferences are set very, very early on in life. And then suddenly, even though like, it's just bad storytelling because like no hint, no prolonged looks, no quirky conversations with somebody of the same sex. All that's fine. If you don't want to reveal it till later, but you have to at least throw those hints in there. Otherwise, it's just bad storytelling.
Well, look, Brett, it's not bad storytelling. It's not storytelling at all. Yeah. What they are trying to do by slowly, attempting to convince her to incorporate this into her character is just use shock value to bring in more viewership when really that's not needed, and it compromises the original appeal of the show.
Disney can feel all the articles being written, all of the stunning and brave articles being written.
Yeah. Not even that, actors play people who they're not.
No, not anymore. No, you're not. No, that's bad now. You're not allowed to play things that you're not anymore.
First, they come now with the assumption that you have to incorporate your real identity into the character you're playing, which is why when they chose the new Little Mermaid, Ariel, they were just from the jump assuming that she should keep her dreads in her hair while playing this character. She didn't push back on it, but it wasn't her idea.
That actress, Halle Bailey, is going to play some like Wall Street trader that was like, she's like only the second female on Wall Street or something, and the lady like apparently got some article written about her in like 2018, and like everyone in the industry like on Wall Street hated her because I guess she's shown a light on the sexism of Wall Street. So like
what?
Yeah, she's like
this is based on a person
that's still alive.
Who does she look like? This person?
Apparently she looks a little bit like this person, but the point is she's still alive. The lady's like young, like in her 30s or 40s or something.
Dude, what?
Like, we used to talk about, I was like, why are they making a Madonna biopic? She's not dead yet. Now they're like, the person, like they're not in their 20s anymore. Time to make the biopic.
I mean, I want Leonardo DiCaprio to make the FTX movie and he just get a bunch of goofy hair and he's like, I'm going to scam them all.
Who can play the FTX girl in the FTX biopic?
Was she hot?
I don't know.
No. Oh my gosh, no.
Then you have to find somebody who can play ugly. There are actresses that can actually
make them ugly.
Well, you can.
Jonah Hill.
No.
To play the girl?
No.
There was I wish I had gotten some time to think of this. There's a couple of examples that I can't think of off the top of my head where they actually have to go out of their way to make them look less attractive than they actually are. And I actually have a lot of respect for the women who are like, yes, I will play
Charlize Theron all the time.
Maybe. I mean, she might be too old for that.
One of her Oscar-winning performances, like, she was banged up.
One of the examples, I might even think it was like something Emmanuel Shrieky was in, where she's like, this woman is just gorgeous, and they have something that she was in, I can't remember what it was, and she's like, looks very, maybe not ugly, but very plain when she's not a plain-looking woman. So,
yeah, they can do certain things to change an actress's appearance, but I don't know if anything could do that FTX girl justice.
Yeah. That I
don't think that would be possible.
Clowned on by the entire universe.
Yeah. Okay, so
sorry, we're getting off topic.
So you watched the show?
Yeah. So I want to read these other quotes from Raven Simone. She said, Raven Baxter never exhibited any type of sexual identity situation in the priors. I'm not being myself on this show. I'm being a character. quite a novel concept.
That is shocking.
Said, Raven Baxter is not gay, no matter what the first 4 seasons looks like, with me and Chelsea sleeping in the same room and us raising a family together. That's not the case. We are friends who sleep in the same room.
That's even more impressive that she held to her guns, because it would be so easy to make that story to them. They're like, it's not a leap. Now, here's the other thing. This is what Tumblr and shipping ruined our city. You are not allowed to have a best friend of the same sex anymore in Hollywood. If you have a best friend, you're gay. That's what they believe. They believe that if you have a best friend and you're close and you give each other hugs and you get along, that just means you secretly want to get together and do each other. They're maladjusted, and they don't understand actual human connection.
It's girl friendships, but I think it's especially prevalent with guy friendships in media.
That's God. That's the same normalization that they're doing with children in the first topic, where they're like, you're not allowed to just be bros
chipping
anymore.
away at anyone's perception of like platonic male friendship.
You can't have it, because they've already done it to women. Yeah. They've already done this to women over the last 25 years, where every woman suddenly is just like, on every show, it's like, well, she's a bisexual. How did you not know that?
Just that's the default.
Now it's men. Now it's like, well, he's like, yeah, sure. They were best buds for 20 years, but secretly they wanted to do each other. That's what it was.
Yeah, it really cheapens the whole depth of characters. Yeah. And they can't have a connection that's not sexual. The shippers are really the freaking worst. Truly. Like, get a life.
Maladjusted, no concept of reality, and extremely
The Marvel
deviant.
Shippers are some of the worst because, like, I was going off about this before, but, like, when they started shipping Wanda with, or like Scarlet Witch with, who was it? Wonder Man, the new Wonder Man character, just because they race swapped Wonder Man in this new series to from a white man to a black man, they started making it into this weird like porn storyline that it was so creepy, and all of these tweets, they're just openly creeping on like people who are actually real human beings that can read these posts.
Did you who is it, Markiplier, and what's his name, the other guy? They always talked about those two, and even though they were just friends.
Egoraptor?
Yeah, maybe. But the other thing is like
Jacksepticeye? I don't know.
Yeah, that might have been it. But it's like there is no middle ground for anyone anymore. You're just and it's like it speaks to either their degeneracy or their lack of actual sexual. Like, they've never actually been had a sexual relationship or understand how it works when you're intimate with someone.
It's just like having this parasocial connection, the sense that you know how someone is in private when you just don't. Like, I know the Larry shippers in the One Direction fandom were some of the worst offenders. They were convicted. They would literally die for like thinking that Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson were in a relationship throughout the existence of One Direction. Like, if you had held to a gun to their head and asked them, like, are Harry and Louis together, yes or no, they would die and say yes. And like, I'm genuinely.
And I'm sitting back and thinking of like all the great shows with like, I watched episodes of House this weekend. House and Wilson are best friends. Almost to Wilson's detriment, because House is such an awful human being and takes advantage of Wilson's kindness at every single turn. And what it is it shows Wilson's dedication to a friend who he knows is troubled, but also it shows you how deep a bond can go even when it's clearly not healthy. Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't be allowed to do that anymore.
There's no complexity.
No. It also makes me think of when like they had the Pride post and Nintendo posted Luigi and Mario together, and everyone's like, dude, those dudes are brothers.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it's reflected right now with the decision or the suggestion, let's say, to make Raven's character gay. It's like, hey, you're gay, and thus you understand no other range of emotion. You're
nothing else other than that.
Correct. Thus, play yourself on TV.
And it's designed to take things from the past and then change it to make it in the modern image. Meaning, like, you can't have something that existed in 2007 because that was for straight, cis, hetero, this or that, right?
How dare we?
You're not allowed to have that anymore because inclusion.
People have criticized the new Wednesday series on Netflix for queer baiting. I didn't watch the first episode of it, but it showed this intro. It's like using the idea that like this main character is gay in order to draw more viewers from LGBT
and then
audiences.
It's barely in it at all.
And then it's like, not really in the series. So like I saw this freeze frame from one of the episodes where they like cross out the day in Wednesday and then replace it with the word gay.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they did that, because I haven't seen anything about the plot line, including anything about Wednesday being gay, and it's played by Jenna Ortega. I haven't seen anything about that, but
is that out yet?
Yeah, it's out now. It's getting backlash for that though.
I'm gonna point to one comment from Keenan Smith. I just want to push back on a little bit because he's right about one thing. He says Gregory House is also a great friend because when he does show how much he cares, it's unexpected and truly heartfelt, and it's usually a pretty freaking big deal that no one else can do. There's a really good example of this that a lot of people don't pick up on. In one of the seasons, and I know this is a bit of an aside, but Wilson gets together with like his ex-wife, and they start dating again, and they start falling back into the same habits where like she kind of walks all over him and he doesn't stick up for himself. So what House does is like he puts the milk from the inside of the refrigerator to the door because he knows that Wilson hates that, but he blamed so that she'll get blamed for it, causing them to fight so that he can help Wilson stick up for himself.
Oh my God.
And it's like, it's a very underhanded and devious thing to do. But yes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about you can be dudes and be friends. Mm-hmm. You don't have to just be, I'm close to you, therefore we must like each other romantically.
And also, like, relationships like that exist in nature. And probably everyone at some point has had a friend that they can't inexplicably not explain why they like them, and yet they do.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who that friend is, it's you. And, there's different shows and different archetypes of narrative to show different stories. But the shame of today's day and age is that everything must be pigeonholed through the eye of progressivism.
Mm-hmm. And there's no, unfortunately, I don't think there's much change. Speaking of which, did you have any more thoughts? Because you watched the show, so you might have more insight to it than me.
I do appreciate just that Raven-Symone's trying to protect the female friendship that was portrayed on that show.
I was shocked. I was legitimately shocked at such a reasonable response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also like not the same celebrity narcissism that we normally see, where I have to insert my real identity into every role that I take. It has to reflect me.
Maybe because she's more established.
I think it's because she has the power to leverage over this reboot. It's really all about her and her star power. They can't make a Raven's Home without Raven-Symoné.
Yeah.
So she has the freedom to do whatever she wants with the character.
Yeah. Also, she might feel more of a, if you actually built that character up from nothing, you feel an ownership, you feel a protective nature over that character. That's somebody who's just, like I always talk about, when these writers come in and they change comic book characters, it's because they don't feel any particular connection to it because they've just been dropped into this project haphazardly. Whereas somebody who spent more time on it has devoted more of their attention, more of their resources, more of their energy to it, would feel a certain level of protection over what it was before. Whereas now it's not about what it was before, it's about what it can do for me now. And she feels that she wants to protect both what it was before and what it will be later on.
Yeah, so. That's how I feel about the iCarly reboot, that they updated iCarly to be adult appropriate, and then they replaced Jeanette McCurdy's sidekick character with a new person who no one was introduced to prior. And it was only because Jeanette McCurdy was straight up like not invited to this project, and later, revealed that the creator of the show was an abusive psychopath.
Does anything ever happen to him?
It's just completely ignoring the context of like why this show was special to people. It was because they were ignorant of the ugliness that was behind the making of it.
Did anything ever happen to Dan Schneider? Still around?
Did anything happen to him? Well, I mean, he hasn't been held to account legally for anything.
I imagine nothing will.
But I bet he got told that he was a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Way to go, everyone.
Woo!
And now I want to talk about why I think this will be this will continue to be the exception and not the rule, because I personally do not believe that anything is about to change, because Donald Trump has decided to run for president again.
He's also back on Twitter.
And that means that, and I do mean this, there is nothing that incites celebrities more than being riddled with TDS. Bill Maher is a perfect example of somebody who can be extremely rational when he wants to be, but something about this dude
he got sued by Trump.
Just drives
What was he sued for?
Nuts.
Defamation. So Bill Maher got sued by Trump, and that's why he went on TDS. Like, it's not like most people. There's like,
did Trump win the suit?
I don't know the details.
I'll look into this later.
So if you sued me, I'd be upset too.
So we've got a bunch of tweets here from various celebrities of various levels of importance. And a lot of them, it's the same. It's the usual suspects. It's your Rob Reiners. It's your Elijah Woods. It's your Mark Ruffalo's. It's the same people, right?
Yeah.
But here's the
Mark
problem.
Ruffalo.
These people are indicative of what the actual culture is in Hollywood, right? We talk about progressivism. These people are the bastions of progressivism. And when he got elected in 2016, there was a downslope of entertainment writing as we started pushing a message that they felt ran counter to what he was pushing. Whether that's actually true or not, I find Trump to be, he was a moderate reformer at best, who just happens to be combative and bombastic with his language. In policy, he was none of that. But the point is that they pushed what they felt was going to be the media that they wanted to counter his narrative, which means I guarantee you we're going to get an awful January 6th movie, an awful January. It's going to be disgusting.
Well, we already saw She Said about the Me Too movement released only a few days ago. It completely flopped in the box office.
It's funny.
I guess, serves...
Film Threat predicted it. They're like,
serves them
nobody
right
wants to see this.
Right.
Nobody wants to see this. Nobody cares. Nobody. First of all,
not even Brad Pitt cares.
No. Well, not to mention he's got his own.
He's had to be alienated from the marketing of it entirely as a producer
because they're like, go see it or
now
Brad Pitt will choke you.
Himself is someone who got canceled by the aftermath of Me Too. So yeah, no one likes this stuff. It's preachy.
Beyond the fact that I think that Depp Heard doused it in cold water before this even came to pass. So Elijah Wood, this was my favorite out of all of them.
He tweeted this at 4 a.m., by the way. Just absolutely deranged.
Says, y'all, we're not doing this again, right? We had 4 years. That felt like a nightmare, and that was that, right? And then somebody says, unfortunately, it's only been 2 years. He says, not what I was referring to. So that was a fantastic own. I don't even know if he got it.
Yeah. No wonder that Elijah Wood was castigating all of the Rings of Power.
Yep.
Backlash. It's just constant browbeating the public.
And then Mark Hamill, I knew Mark Hamill. Like I said, all of these people, they just can't help. I would love to know what it is. Did he just catch these specific people on a really, when he started going off on Twitter back in the day, were these people just all the ones who were having really bad days that day, and it got imprinted?
They were just ready to fly off the handle.
Man.
So Mark Hamill calls Trump a complete and total embarrassment. Then he says 45 announces future failed run for the presidency. Wow, you really owned him there.
He totally got him. Jeffrey Wright says this clown Trump actually believes the nonsense dookying out of his mouth. That is very clever language there. He says Trump
calls him a damn depressant.
I don't know.
Maybe for you.
No, I don't think he's a depressant to these people. Weird. I think he's a stimulant to these people. He enrages them. He brings them forward.
He brings out that manic rage in there.
And what it's going to do is it's going to bolster the idea that they need to make more woke garbage content to push back on Trump's America, which, by the way, we're still in, apparently, according to them. When something good happens, we're past it. Mm-hmm. When something bad happens, we're still in it.
It
depends.
Never ended. But I kind of like this tweet from Michael Ian Black that says, I don't really give a shit who's running for president right now. Let me just enjoy my life for a minute.
Honestly.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm with him. There was a Babylon Bee one the other day. It says people in a neighborhood joyously remember when one election ended, another one didn't just immediately begin, because it's just the signs double.
Yeah.
Because one election's over, it's time to just talk about more stuff because there's no There's just no getting out of it anymore. Mm-hmm. And this is also the Twitter bubble. So Rob Reiner, who's particularly awful, says there's no other way to put this. Donald Trump is a complete and utter fool, not to mention a career criminal. Time to indict and put the last nail into his corrupt coffin. They've been saying that same thing since like taxes. In like 2016. And like I said, I don't care necessarily what all the celebrities say. Me and Dane were just talking about this earlier, that I think what this means is that if you remember Ghostbusters 2016, like I think we're going to see more of this because this will reinvigorate them to continue to be activists with their media, to push back.
I think, so me and Brett were having a debate about this. I think that outrageous woke anger just doesn't slap anymore. It just doesn't hit as hard. I'm not like, no one is as scared of the no words and the no titles that they can put on you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
they really play their hand.
I think like they were talking about the Mary Sue is just like salivating right now at all the Trump articles they're going to get to write.
They were on that list of organizations that supports Amber Heard, by the way.
But I'm just like, like, and here's the thing. I'm ambivalent to it. I'm like, I'm over it. I'm over all of this. But it's like when I don't know what it is about this dude, but they hate his guts and they cannot help themselves.
Mark Ruffalo said that Trump is the definition of fake populist elite. He has done nothing for working class people or America except to take the GOP down. Well, yeah. This is completely irrelevant, but Mark Ruffalo, this is why you are going to get replaced by your younger clone, Noah Centineo.
And then he'll just take his roles.
He'll embrace the Mark Ruffalo allegations and you will be made obsolete.
Also, let's face it, it's not as if Mark Ruffalo knows any more about what the average everyday person is going through any more than Donald Trump does. If anything,
nor does he care.
Mark Ruffalo allegations?
The Noah Centineo has been compared. He's been accused of being the new Mark Ruffalo.
Oh my God!
And I completely agree. But maybe he'll just be the new and improved version that doesn't go off on Twitter.
And George Takai says Trump announcing about 2024, right when all of us just went through the midterms, is like your awful neighbor putting up tacky Halloween decorations the day after Halloween. Tacky holiday directions the day after Halloween. Let us enjoy the quiet sound of no negative ads, no national election headlines already. Read the room. I actually agree with the last part because I would just like a couple of days of peace, but they're such babies. And then, of course, Rosie O'Donnell calls him
I saw this tweet an Instagram post from Jack White, of all people, that said, shame on you for giving Trump and other professional liars, he's talking to Elon Musk, the platform you are now in control of, and shame on anyone who does. He announced that he would deactivate the Twitter account of his record label, and he said, shame on you if you think it's no big deal.
From the White Stripes?
Yeah.
Is Jack there White anything less believable than a person who has to announce that they're leaving Twitter? It's this is something that used to happen in skating. Like when you skate for like 20 plus years, it becomes part of who you are, right? So one of the things that you learn throughout the years is there would be people who would just make announcements like, dude, I'm quitting. No, you're not. You want to talk about...
It's also like, you can't fire me, I quit.
They're like...
no one wanted your whiny ass on Twitter anyways.
Yeah. Like, you want to talk about quitting because there's a conversation there and you want to vent about something. But if you were actually going to quit, you would just stop or deactivate and not say anything. Mm-hmm. But it is like they had like a week of like, oh, I'm leaving Twitter so they can all say goodbye. Like they were signing each other's yearbooks. So long, see you on Mastodon.
I really like the White Stripes. I've constantly had this crisis of self where I'm like, I wonder if the people I admire would like me.
Really?
I mean, they likely wouldn't, just for these stupid political reasons.
Man, I mean, but like, I'm not a partisan.
Doesn't are we talking? Well, yeah, but are we talking about like what people that you admire specifically,
dude? So the first people that come to mind are these two dudes that run this YouTube channel called Resonant Arc.
Okay,
it's kind of like a video game book club, and one analyzes symbolism in games. And he's insane. And the other one analyzes like storytelling and narrative. And they're just incredible. and they don't seem like particularly political guys.
Yeah.
But oh my god,
you just assume defaults.
Factory settings.
All right.
That's funny. Let's move on and talk about this new phenomenon where incels in their 20s are
bribing
purchasing
women.
Taylor Swift concert tickets in order to score dates with gullible women. Here is a story from a 26-year-old guy in Atlanta. He posted on his Instagram story that he got second row tickets for one of her shows from the pre-sales, and he offered to take a female friend. He said, I can just, make this the best first date ever.
Bribing him. Look, he knows what
so
he's doing.
he posted a screenshot of his seating chart on the concert for his Instagram story and said, now taking applications for a +1. Good job, bro. Make them come to you. And he said that his DMs got overwhelmed with dozens of women asking for the spot who likely will never text him again after that night.
I will ask you this. If you put up and said, I have 2 tickets to a movie this weekend, which of you lucky ladies would like to come with me? I wonder what the number would be of the women that would actually send him messages.
Well, it's because of the inflated prices that they have to get the charity work from one of these guys who was in the pre-sale waiting line. He said, it's gotten pretty insane. I even had my friend who saw the post text me saying, I know a girl would love to go. I can give her your number. So it likely worked out for him. And here's another story from a 23-year-old who got a couple of tickets in Boston. He said, some girls have sent actual resumes. He advertised his tickets on TikTok, and here are some of the comments.
Dude.
One said, marriage, immediately. This was the move of the century. This man knows his audience, and you gotta respect it. It's me. I'm the audience. Pick me up at 6.
Wow.
He even commented on his own video, and he said, I can cook dinner if you make the drinks before the concert too, thinking something wholesome and fun. And all of these girls are like,
what if he's just like, no wholesome, complete debauchery? That is the only way.
I don't know. I think that these guys are genuinely so desperate that they'll spend $1,000 on a first date or more.
Chickenflation.
Knowing the prices that we were talking about, these guys are putting down the equivalent of like over a down payment on a house to get a first date with one of these girls.
So that he gets
it's insane.
So say best case scenario, they hit it off. They're like a match made in heaven that just got lucky. This was the exact right circumstances for his life. And then for the rest of his life, he has this little lingering doubt. Would she have given a crap about me if I had met her at a party or in line at the grocery store?
Absolutely
or
not.
on a dating app? Did I really have to make the grand gesture before we even knew our names?
One of the comments said, I'm married, but I don't think my husband would mind. Where do I send my application?
I really hate feeding
That's awful.
Feeding into stereotypes. But I gotta say, American Dude Game is weak as hell. And
American Bribe Game, however. American Dude Bribe Game, though, strong.
And there is a way that this could have been done with a bit more pizzazz. And let me show you. Listen, you don't go all cards forward. What should have been done by these individuals to a lovely lady that they like is like, hi, I think you're cute, or whatever insert whatever compliment you think is most fitting. I have tickets to an event and I'd love to take you. Just up to you. Don't specify
what event
because you don't specify. It's like, well, you'll find out when we go, but I think you'd like it. A little bit of mystique, right?
Mm-hmm. Then it's NASCAR.
Then when the chick maybe, and then but at least you'd be then. The onus is on her, and she'd be like, "Well, he says I'd like it. He's thinking of me and these things." And then imagine, you not only do you get the chick. You get the chick that's interested in you and is interested in the opportunity. And then you hit her with a slam bam, thank you, ma'am, of, yo, it's $20,000.
I don't know about that part.
Well, maybe not that part. I'm just talking about, I don't know, insert any other razzle dazzle of like, hey, these are $20,000 Taylor Swift tickets. Boom. I bet you didn't expect that. And now you just impressed her.
Okay.
Whereas the other one, you're just
then
like
she's going to feel a certain
her.
amount of pressure after that too to be like, holy
no,
crap.
she's not. No, she's not.
Yeah, okay, I'm giving her too much credit.
Yeah.
Depends on the girl.
Wouldn't that be better?
So, Mary, you like Taylor Swift? Are you a Swift fan? I don't know if you're a Swift fan.
I like her older music before she got political, mainly.
If a dude spent this much on tickets, would that just automatically assume some type of like there's strings attached now?
It seems like a psycho move, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I would probably go, but I don't think that's any reason to
right away.
Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, I think that it's like there are people calling this wholesome, and I think it's anything but, because he's just using the tickets as like a bribe, literally, for women to go on a date with him. It's like, why can't you get women to go on a normal date with you? It's suspicious.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. You frame it as a normal thing, and then you surprise her with the extra effort.
There's no reason to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a first date.
Maybe you're like Hannah Claire and you got it for $240. And
oh,
it's
right.
different.
Yeah, if you got in early.
But still, even that is too much. I don't genuinely believe that any guy wants to see a Taylor Swift concert.
Well,
that's way too
or
much.
you could like a nice girl like Mary and take her to Waffle House.
That's even funnier to think about, right? Like, would he have gone on his own? No. So that means it's inherently a ploy.
Right, exactly.
What?
That was his plan all along.
He's not going to a Taylor Swift concert because he likes Taylor Swift. At least I'm guessing he's not.
No,
you'd be surprised with the amount of.
No, it's because he can't get a date any other way. Clearly.
Hypothesis says, "Hey girl, I got tickets to WrestleMania 40. Yo,
that would be cool.
Go! I'm so down.
Like, I just think that there's some happy medium between like spending $40,000 on a first date and like hanging out at Waffle House. There should be some kind of middle ground here.
The best first date is pizza. Every time.
Really?
Because
a lot of people would just say coffee.
There's some lot. No, wait. Everyone likes pizza. Yet to meet the person that doesn't like pizza. And there's different grades of pizza. There's shitty cheap pizza. There's medium pizza. There's nice little sit down restaurant Italian pizza. You know. And it's a good way of seeing if the person is interested in meeting you or they just want to have dinner. In any case, well, you just got a pizza, and in the worst case, you ate pizza, right? Anything that goes over that, like, don't start, with all. Don't give give your all, I guess, but like, don't give all your cards in the beginning. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, tell it to these guys. It worked for them.
I am telling it to these guys. Don't do it.
I hope that they see this then.
I mean, they're talking about PCC dating apps, so I'm like, dudes.
We'll see if the live chat works first. How about that? Then we'll get into the negotiations about a dating app. Let's go to super chats.
Let's do it. Thank you,
DD
guys.
Mega Doo 97 said, PCC crew, I was hoping you could ask Tim to send me Luke's unused, they're not unused, Bazunga implants if they're still up for grabs. Get it? Grabs. Trying to give a shout out to help your other channel grow a bit, but like Luke's milkers.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll definitely ask about that for sure.
Can I be there when you ask?
We'll even word it the same way. Big Dave sent us 99 cents without a message. Thank you.
Big Dave, as always, strong
silent. And Kai Clips said, "What's up, gang? Thanks again for having me. Sad to see all of these niche non-political groups become so polarized as of late."
Unfortunately, you can't really can't get away from that. It feels like. Okay, this is actually something I wanted to talk about. This is it's not related to any of this stuff, but I found that one of the most annoying things in the world is when somebody goes on to like a social media, like a meme or a clip that's not political and makes it political, like more so than it already is. Like
Thank you guys.
Like, I wish I had a really good example off the top of my head, but there's always that guy, right, where somebody's like pay it's like pay $5.99 to go out and get fast food, or pay $40.99 to get Uber Eats delivered, and then somebody has to go, yeah, because of the recession, thanks Biden. Like, I don't care. And it would go the same the other way, right? I don't want people on either side to go into stuff that's inherently not really a political statement and then just have to turn it into something that it's not. And then people start arguing. I'm sure the people who make it love it because it's good for the engagement on the post.
That's me.
It's always just
maniacally laughing in the corner.
It's always like, learn to turn it off. Like, there is that's why I post like a lot of the stuff that I do is like, I like to find stuff that's humorous, that's enjoyable to read or to look at, or that makes you laugh, but doesn't have to be done in the vein of politics. Doesn't always have to be like that.
Don't let the comments bother you that much. I try not to look at comments.
That's not even stuff on mine. That's just stuff I read on other people's where I'm just like, why?
Don't look.
Why do these people do it?
Clint said, "Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. Speak out if you feel the urge to delete yourself. May Jesus have mercy on him."
Yes.
Yep.
Like I said, I couldn't believe how many people he impacted. That was genuinely shocking to me. So, all right, guys. I think that's it. I was like, it said
that's all of them.
It said no data for a second there. I got scared. We are good. Dane, thank you so much, my friend. Are you over there talking to the chat still?
I am. I'll never stop.
Let everyone know where they can find you, my friend.
They can find me at Dane Font on Twitter. But my girl makes fun of me because she says I say it very loudly, and it's...
So you said it quieter.
It's unnerving, but it's at Dane Font on Twitter. DANEFONT.
Perfect.
Great.
Mary, where can they find you?
You can find pictures of me on Instagram at Mary Archived. And if you want to read my inane thoughts or be a reply guy like Tacti Platty, then you can follow me on Twitter also at Mary Archived.
There's one more there from Shimmy Shelley.
Shimmy Shelley said, I have a price and it's pizza and wrestling.
Dude, okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I honestly, a lot of times I find myself randomly watching wrestling clips online all the time.
What are we talking about? You say pineapple on pizza?
No
one said anything about pineapple on pizza.
Okay, never mind.
Crazy.
So I might have to watch some wrestling right after the show, after I get done editing it. So, guys, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at Brett Dazzard. For the show, we are here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific, and we've gotten a couple of days in a row now that are doing very good. We got one more from Bad App, but my guess is that Mary will not want to read that one.
Okay.
Cool. That is okay.
Safe guess.
Safe guess. Perfect. You also can follow us on social media or on Twitter at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. We are also on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you'd like to listen to the podcast. And then also, I think that's everything, and we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then, guys.
Bye. Later.